Greetings, fellow lords and ladies. Well, hope you all had a good Thanksgiving yesterday, so there's that. But anyway, so our look at Game of Thrones Season 5 now concludes with the Season 5 finale episode, Mother's Mercy. So, beginning in the north, as the snow begins to melt, Melisandre is elated. Still grieving, Stannis prepares to march on Winterfell. However, one of his generals informs him that nearly half of his men have deserted, mainly the sellswords, who have also run away with all their horses. Another soldier comes with more bad news. Sleece has hanged herself out of grief for her daughter. As he views her body, his general reports that Melisandre has fled. Marching across the fields with less than half the men he once had, Stannis has his men start preparing for the siege, but instead met in combat early by the Bolton army. The mounted Bolton army easily defeats Stannis' tired and mountless army. Wounded and exhausted, Stannis fights off two remaining soldiers in the aftermath of the carnage and collapses against a tree. Brienne of Tarth is warned by Patrick Payne of Stannis' arrival, and he leaves her watch for Sansa's signal. After the battle, she waits and finds the wounded Stannis. She declares who she is, and that her king was killed by his brother's shadow that bore his face, before drawing her sword to slay him. Stannis, having lost everything, simply accepts his fate to die. He tells Brienne to do her duty. After a moment's hesitation, Brienne swings her sword at him. Elsewhere, Ramsay finishes off the few remaining Baratheon soldiers and heads back to Winterfell. In Winterfell itself, Sansa uses corkscrew she pocketed earlier to escape her room and seeks out the tower to light her signal. After the candle's lit, she sees the Boltons clash with Stannis' army and sees this as a time to slip out of Winterfell. Desperately running across the ramparts, she is stopped by Miranda and Reek. Miranda threatens Sansa with a bow, but Sansa, weary and realizing she can't escape a shot from a bow, tells her to kill her while there is still a part of the real her left. Miranda tells Sansa that Ramsay needs her to have an heir and for nothing more afterward, but says Ramsay does not need all of Sansa in one piece to accomplish that. Sansa braces herself for the worst as Miranda tenses her bow. However, Theon finally breaks the Bolton's hold on him and causes Miranda to miss fire. He grabs and holds Miranda over the ramparts, and Miranda screams as she hurtles to her death, being killed instantly upon impact with the stone floor of the courtyard below. Sansa and Theon run, but with Ramsay just returning from the battle, they find themselves with nowhere to go. Hoping to land in deep snow and survive the long fall, the two of them grasp their hands together and jump off the rampart. Ooh. Anyway, in Bravos, Sir Mary tried to slicky upon three young girls in the Bravasi brothel. Of the three girls, two began to cry and scream when they were whipped by Meryn. However, the last girl has no reaction when whipped. Meryn sends the two weak girls away and punches the last one in the stomach. However, the last girl is revealed to be Arya Stark, wearing the face mask of Gita, the sickly girl who was earlier poisoned by Arya in the House of Black and White. After removing her face mask, Arya pulls out a knife and stabs Meryn in both eyes and chest repeatedly, and puts a gag in his mouth to silence his cries. She then reveals her identity and reminds Meryn of how he killed her dance master, Sierra Farrell, before calling him no one and slitting his throat. Arya then returns to the House of Black and White and returns the face that she used to hide her identity. However, Jack and Edgar on the Waif appear and say that Meryn's life is not hers to take, and that a debt must be paid. The Waif grabs Arya and Jack as Jack pulls out a vial, presumably containing some kind of poison. However, he drinks the poison himself and collapses, with Arya screaming for him to stay alive. Arya says that he was her friend, and hears Dragon's voice behind her say he was no one. She turns around to see that the Waif now has Dragon's face. Arya asks who the person on the floor where Dragon's face is. Dragon, in the Waif's body, says that he is no one. Arya begins to remove multiple faces from the person on the floor until she sees her own face. She then begins to lose her sight as her eyes turn opaque white and screams for help. Ooh. Anyway, in Meereen, with Daenerys gone, her council is unsure of how they should continue. Tyrion tries to spell Jorah and Daario's feelings for her, understanding all too well how one could love the wrong woman. The three argue about Jorah's betrayal, but they will not make any judgments without Daenerys first. Drogon would say taking her north, and that is where they need to search for their queen. Grey Worm, still recovering from his injuries, offers to go with Jorah and Daario, as does Tyrion. Daario firmly nixes both ideas. Grey Worm is needed to command the Unsullied and keep the city under control, while Tyrion is the only one of them to have any actual political experience. Derek expresses confidence that with Missandei's help, the pair of them should be able to keep Meereen under control until they return with Daenerys. As Tyrion watches Dario and Jorah depart the city, Varys calmly walks up to Tyrion. Teasing Tyrion about abandoning him at Volantis, he explains to Tyrion already settling into a role that suits him. He reminds Tyrion that he has experience around a city full of people trying to kill each other, and implies that he and his little birds are there to help. That's nice. Anyway, in the Dothraki Sea. Meanwhile, Daenerys finds herself far away from Meereen, atop an impressive hill in a sea of green grass. Drogon is still recovering from the wounds he received from the arena in Meereen and is uninterested in flying back. Unfortunately, he's also not interested in finding them any food. Daenerys wanders away to find something for them, but starts to see a trio of Dothraki Bloodraiser emerge. Within minutes, entire Khalasar has her surrounded. Understanding what might happen to her, she quickly removes the ring and drops it in the grass, determined to leave a trail. Anyway, in Dorne, Jaime, Bronn, Marcel, and Trystane say their farewells to the Martells to return to King's Landing. Upon saying goodbye, Alari Sand kisses Marcel on the lips, while Tane Sand flirts with Bronn. Aboard the ship, Marcel and Jaime talk about Cersei. Jaime gets to come clean to Marcella, awkwardly telling her that we cannot choose who we love. Marcel then reveals that she knows that Jaime is her real father, and that she is glad that he is, and the two embrace. However, Marcella's expression changes. The smile fades on her face and her nose starts to bleed. She collapses in Jaime's arms. Back in Dorne, Alari wipes the blood from her nose and takes the antidote for the poison coated on her lips. Oh, boy. Anyway, in King's Landing, Subdonella enters Cersei's cell and orders her to confess. Finally giving in, Cersei is brought before High Sparrow to confess her sins. She confesses her adultery with Sir Lancel, but denies her sister's relationship with her brother Jaime. Cersei begs to be allowed to go to the Red Keep to see her son Tommen. The High Sparrow grants her request, but says there will still be a trial to ascertain the truth behind the other charges that she still denies: incest and regicide. Cersei is brought to a cell where she is stripped naked and roughly washed before her hair is quickly cut short. She is brought outside, where she is forced to walk naked through the streets of King's Landing from the Great Subda Baelor to the Red Keep as punishment. She is accompanied by Subdonella, who repeats the word shame 3 times and rings the bell every few steps, and 6 members of the Faith Militant. Cersei performs her Rock of Atonement amidst delirium crowds, who immediately begin pelting her with filth and vicious insults, such as "cunt" and "brotherfucker." With bloody feet, Cersei eventually makes it to the Red Keep and bursts into tears. Upon entering the gates, Cersei finds her uncle Kevin Lannister, Grandmaster Pycelle, and Qyburn waiting for her. Qyburn attempts to comfort her by covering her body with the cloak. Heavy footsteps are heard, and Qyburn introduces Cersei to the newest member of the King's Guard, an 8-foot-tall man in golden armor, who he says has sworn a vow of silence until all of their foes are defeated. Qyburn suggests Cersei go inside where he can attend to her feet, which are badly injured, and the huge knight lifts her up and carries her away, as her expression already begins to harden. And finally, at the Wall. Jon Snow tells Sam what he witnessed at Hardhome. He hopes the White Walkers can't climb the wall as there is not enough dragon glass or Valyrian steel in Westeros to combat them. Sam asks Jon if he could travel to Old Town to study and replace Aemon as the new Maester of the Watch. He feels there is no other way he can help them as he cannot fight. He's also afraid for Gillian and their child's safety and wishes to take them along. Jon reminds him that the Citadel will not allow Sam to be with women, but it's humor to hear that it's already too late for that. Sam promises he will return. They toast to that, and Jon sees his only friend off. Davos, having returned to Castle Black and Stannis' orders, urges Jon to convince the wildlings for aid. Jon refuses him, saying that they couldn't side with Stannis and this is not their fight. Both of them are shocked to see speechless and despondent Melisandre return to the Wall. Sir Davos pressures Melisandre for news, specifically asking after Shireen, but Melisandre remains silent. After seeing the empty look in her eyes, Davos lets her leave. That night, Jon is reading messages when his steward Ollie tells him that a wildling knows of the whereabouts of his long-missing uncle. Jon Snow quickly rushes with Thorin to a group of to gather a group of watchmen, only see a placard with the word traitor written on it. He turns around to find his brother staring him down. Thor makes the first move and stabs Lord Commander. For the watch, Thorne says, as well as the others as they close in and continue stabbing him. One after another, Jon Snow is betrayed. For the watch. Finally, a tearful Ollie approaches last. After a moment of pause, Jon gasps, Ollie, before Ollie delivers the final blow, repeating the pledge. The brothers leave Jon to die alone in the snow. Oh no. So, yeah. Anyway, so let's take a look at some behind-the-scenes notes about this episode. And I'm only doing the general ones, so I'm not going to, go into all the other behind-the-scenes notes about the other stuff from this episode. So, yeah, anyway. So, yeah. The episode takes its title from the mother, the aspect of the god in the faith of the seven symbolizing mercy. Excuse me. Though accused by the faith melted, may seek the mother's mercy prior to their trials if they confess, as explained by the High Spirit of Circe. The well-known hymn to the mother is titled Gentle Mother, Font of Mercy, reinforcing the association between the mother and mercy. Within the episode, Circe asks the High Sparrow in dialogue to receive the mother's mercy. This is also the second time a title includes the term mother, as the season 3 finale Maisha means mother in the tongue of the Kaskari Empire. The soundtrack playing over the credits is a rendition of the main theme. It did not appear on the official soundtrack release. House Greyjoy, House Tully, and House Frey do not appear in this episode, and have not even been mentioned throughout all of season 5. House Tyrell does not appear in this episode. Littlefinger does not appear in this episode. House Bolton appears led by Ramsay, but Roose Bolton does not appear without explanation. The season 5 finale broke the TV series' all-time live viewership record, with 8.11 million people watching the initial airing. Game of Thrones Wiki also broke its after viewership record, with 3.4 million site views within a 24-hour period after the episode initially aired. In the novels, Qyburn introduces the new giant and silent member of the Kingsguard as Sir Robert Strong, a man no one has ever heard of. The HBO Viewer's Guide simply identifies him as Gregor Clegane, the mountain that rides, after Qyburn's experimentation on him, healing him from his poisoning by manticore venom. In the novels, Gregor is reported to have died and Qyburn sent a huge skull to Dorne, which could only belong to Gregor, or at least this is what is believed. Several characters within the narrative, such as Kevin, strongly suspect that it actually is Gregor, not just healed, but resurrected from the dead through Qyburn's use of necromancy. It is even clear if Robert Strong has a head, because he wears a visored helmet. The TV version still have permanent eye holes, probably because it would be too difficult for the stuntman to use a more restrictive helmet. The TV series shifted around the identities and deaths of several people on Arya's kill list, particularly several soldiers under Gregor Clegane's command at Harrenhal, some of which were adapted out. These include Polliver the Tickler and another soldier called Raff the Sweetling. His nickname is sarcastic due to his cruelty. It was Raff and not Polliver who killed Lamy. Meryn tried to steal her list, but he doesn't go to Bravos and is still alive in the novels. Arya and the Hound ran into Polliver and Tickler at the inn, where Sandra killed Polliver, and Arya killed the Tickler in a frenzy, repeatedly stabbing him after he fell and becoming smeared with his blood. Raff went to Bravos as a guard for the Master of Coins sent to treat with the Iron Bank. Raff in the novels is particularly interested in perversely young girls, and Arya does attempt to seduce him, then stabs him and sadistically repeats the words Raff taunted Lamy with, making him beg her to carry him before killing him. She doesn't need to steal a faceless man mask because Raff doesn't recognize her. She's much older and dressed differently than when they last met, and she was disguised as a boy. Though Mare knew Arya much better than Raff from her time at Keep, so it makes sense that she would need a disguise for him in the TV series. Actor Ian Beattie, said that he started to suspect that Arya was going to call off his character as soon as he got the script for the 4th episode of season 5, and learned that Mare was heading to Bravos, because Beattie knew that Arya was already there. While Raff in the novels was interested in underage girls, He never beats brothel girls with a stick, apparently to test them out, the way that Marin does in this episode. Retroactively, this might give more sadistic implications to Marin beating up Sansa at Joffrey's command back in seasons 2 and 3, Beatty acknowledged. But he also said he wasn't aware that they were going to condense these elements of Raph's character into his back then. Apparently, the condensation was only decided on in season 5 or maybe season 4. So he didn't play scenes with Sansa like that. Just that Marin blindly followed orders, no matter how ridiculous. In the TV version, Jaqen killed the Tickler while still at Harrenhal. Polliver was killed in a fight with Sandor and Arya at the inn. Arya taunted him the way she did Raph when she killed him in the novels. Killing Mary Trent in this episode takes the place of how she killed Raph when she stumbled upon him in Braavos, trying to seduce him despite her young age, though the manner in which she kills him is reminiscent of how she brutally killed the Tickler in the novels by repeatedly stabbing him. Mary Trent is still alive in the novels and remains on Arya's kill list. In the novels, the masks of the faceless men, made from the preserved faces of corpses, can't simply be slipped on by someone who doesn't have the training to use them. The process involves a blood magic ritual to help the face onto the wearer as if alive. Then again, the TV series moves this around slightly to still say that Arya goes blind from wearing the face, because it's dangerous for untrained people to try to use it. In the book, Arya is given a poison drink as punishment and wakes up blind. Apparently, when Arya returns to the House of Black and White, Jaqen was one faceless man, and another one was impersonating the waif. The waif is an acolyte. She can't shapeshift, so it's unclear if in this specific episode what we see is the faceless man imitating the waif for this one scene, if she's somewhere else in the temple, or if the TV series changes outright and the waif actually was a faceless man throughout the entire season. Given that the waif returns in season 6, this was apparently another faceless man pretending to be the waif. At least, she hasn't been shown to be a shapeshifter like a full-fledged faceless man, but seems to be a mid-level acolyte. It also isn't clear if the faceless man who dies in this episode was even the same man Arya was talking to throughout the season, or a different one intimidating him. For that matter, it is possible that Arya could have encountered multiple different faceless men throughout the season, each of them using the Jaqen persona, and just assumed that they were all the same individual shapeshifter. Apparently, the Jaqen who dies in this episode was actually the same man she was talking to throughout the season, but the faceless men consider themselves to be no one to such an extent that they view themselves as interchangeable. After all, the entire Jaqen Agar from Lorath identity was just a false persona that the shapeshifter had adopted. It remains unclear if Arya ever even met the same shapeshifter from season 2 again after she arrived in Braavos, or if this was just another faceless man the entire time. In the novels, it actually was a different faceless man, whom she nicknames the Kindly Man. The writers intentionally left the situation cryptic, as it's supposed to be in the story. When directly asked, Brian Cookman simply chuckled and pointed out, quote, "There is no Jaqen Agar. There is no Kindly Man. He is no one," end quote. In the books, it is strongly implied that another assassination in Westeros, which had occurred in the TV show, was carried out by the Jaqen Agar that Arya met at Harrenhal, explaining why he was in Westeros in the first place. This other assassination and Arya's arrival in Braavos happened reasonably close to each other in time, and the distance between Westeros and Braavos is great enough to imply that the Kindly Man and Jaqen from Harrenhal can't be the same individual. Thus, there was some confusion with the TV writers that they were omitting this other subplot, and instead stating that the same individual faceless man Arya met at Harrenhal simply returned to Braavos, though again, Cockman remained coy that there is no one Jaqen. Instead, it is entirely possible that the Jaqen from Harrenhal remained in Westeros and may yet be encountered next season. In the Season 5 Blu-ray commentary for this episode, Bennett and Weiss admit that the manner in which Arya kills Sir Meryn in a brutal frenzy of violence was loosely influenced by the films of Quentin Tarantino, though they didn't cite a specific film, or if they just meant the same general tonal style. Macy will explain how difficult it was to shoot the scene after her pulling face after face of the dead faceless man. Quote, "It was very, very complicated. It was madness, actually, when I think about what we did. I had a body double on set for that day, for the last shot when the final faces around. You know that cloak Jaqen was wearing? They made the hood of the cloak out of wire. It was rigid, so the fabric wouldn't move and fall about. Then each different person would lie into the rigid cloak, and they'd shoot my hand, doing the motion of taking off the face. Then I got in and did my double with and did and my double did the hand motion over me, so I met like 7 different people for all 3 seconds each. They cut it all together post-production, so it made it look like they were taking off faces. End quote. When Ari goes blind at the end, the clouded look in her eyes is not a CG effect at all. Macy Holmes actually wore large 16mm wide contact lenses. They do not simply give her eyes the appearance of being blind, but cannot be seen through. Thus, when Ari is wildly turning around unable to see her surroundings, Williams generally couldn't see anything. Incidentally, this fits with Williams' previous efforts to play Ari's physicality as described in the novels. Ari is described as left-handed in the books, so Williams has pervasively played her as left-handed, even though rarely she is right-handed, to the point that she performs all her sword fighting or archery moves left-handed. Book Ari is now blind, and correspondingly, Williams' special contact lenses made her look functionally blind, just like Arya. In the March 20th, 2015 issue of Entertainment Weekly, reporters on a set visit noticed a debate happening among the production team regarding a nude male extra, apparently made of flesh of Cersei. The extra was clearly circumcised, but no major religion in Westeros practiced circumcision, or apparently even in Essos, so they weren't sure if they should retain the actor. However, they ultimately decided that the shot was so brief that no one would even notice. When Daenerys Targaryen encounters the Dothraki Khalasar at the end, the novels specify, as Daenerys recalls, which will be difficult to fit into dialogue, belongs to Khal Draco, one of Drogo's former lieutenants who betrayed her after Drogo died, when Sarge Khalasar broke up and 2 of his lieutenants, Draco and Pono, led away different fractions of it. It was Draco who, in early season 2, sent back a scouting horse with a car with severed head. In the novels, Draco takes part in the rape of a Lazarene girl Daenerys had taken on her protection, for which Daenerys swears revenge. Daenerys is wearing the same dress that she wore at the gladiator pit. It's just very dirty and tarnished after a ride and time in the wilderness. She also tore some pieces off which were restricting her movement, i.e. pieces from the front which she wrapped around her hands so she could grip onto the dragon better. Riding leggings did not just randomly appear as a continuity error. The customers have actually stated that Daenerys always wears Dothraki riding leggings, even after she switched to longer gowns in season 5, because in the back of her mind, throughout her life she has always had to be prepared to run for her life at a moment's notice. Her leggings can actually be seen clearly and kill the boy, but Daenerys visits his star in his cell. Millie Clark has pointed out there is one thing that remains constant despite all of Daenerys' costume changes over the course of the TV series. She always wears one ring, which she explained is supposed to have belonged to her mother, who died in childbirth. Closer inspection reveals that the ring she drops in this episode is not her mother's ring. It didn't have large red pearls in it, though she has been seen wearing multiple rings at the same time before. Her mother's ring may still be on one of her other fingers, hidden by the straps of cloth she wears around her hands. The Inside the Episode guide said that with a split second to think, she dropped it in the vain hope that anyone searching the tracks of the Dothraki riders would find it and know she was there. Tyrion Lannister speaks High Valyrian for the first time in this episode. Back in season 3 of episode 5, High Sparrow, it was still revealed that he knows High Valyrian. When a red priestess is preaching to a crowd of Atlantis, he clearly understands what she's saying and even makes sarcastic commentary about specific things she says. High Valyrian in their world is loosely similar to how Latin was used in the real-life Middle Ages, the language of once great and vast now, but now fallen empire. The Valyrian Freehold, loosely inspired by the Roman Republic, which is still used as the prestige language of educated men across much of the world. Even in Westeros, where the Valyrians never spread before the Doom destroyed them, High Valyrian is an esteemed lore language taught to well-educated lords by the maesters. Someone entirely knows it reasonably well. He humbly says he's not great at it, and while Arya had a few lessons in it, but not remotely enough to know more than a few words. Tyrion is a very well-educated son of a major lord, so he knows High Valyrian quite well, though the odd mistake is bound to happen. Logically, he probably have looked up what the word for dwarf was at some point, given that he is one. Linguist David J. Peterson explains the background of the context of the scene in his blog. Missandei is a master linguist, and she knows full well the High Valyrian word for dwarf was krubo, but she's hesitant to offend Tyrion, because if you think about it, some terms such as imp could technically be translated as dwarf in another language, but can still be offensive, and vice versa. And some people in real life argue that dwarf itself is an offensive term, etc. Missandei doesn't want to sound ableist. If Yrsa calling Tyrion Krubo might be the High Valyrian equivalent of calling him imp. Though she was not yet aware that he understands High Valyrian, she could still see it thought rude to call him that in his presence. Therefore, she tries to be polite by just descriptively calling him Bekavala, literally little man. But Tyrion then just blatantly says he's called a Krubo, dwarf. In fact, the brothel guard of Atlantis called Tyrion a Krubo to his face back in the 3rd episode of the season, High Sparrow, and Oscar subtitles translated as dwarf. At the time, Tyrion reacted as if he fully understood what the brothel guard said. The following that Tyrion says is Krubo, Nike pasan kesor oder drejor isa, Muna, Nia Valerio Marie Bongila Isa. Sorry if I mispronounced any of those words. The Oscar subtitle translates this as dwarf. I believe that's the word. Apologies, my Valyrian is a bit nostril. Pearson explained that while what he said is intelligible for a non-native speaker of the language, it is somewhat ungrammatical, like trying to speak Latin, and literally what Tyrion says is closer to dwarf. I do believe it's the correct word. Sorrows, my Valyrian is a little nostril. The word for nostril is pongila, but Missandei corrects him that the word for rusty in language of scale is ponila. Tyrion mistakenly uses the ng diphthong instead of the very similar titled in. Marcelle Baratheon hasn't died yet in novels. When last seen, she's heading back to King's Landing with Nymeria Sand by land, and Jaime isn't even there. On the other hand, at the end of the most recent novel, some of the Sand Snakes are sent to King's Landing in various roles, among them the Master Poisoner Tyene Sand, told to infiltrate the Great Septa Baelor pretending to be a Septa. Her mother was a Septa in the novels, not Illyria, and she cultivates a pious persona to appear pure and non-threatening. There was also the prophecy by Maggie of the Woods, which, seen in the beginning of Season 5, said all 3 of Cersei's children would predecease her, or specifically that all 3 would have golden crowns, also golden burial shrouds. Joffrey and Tommen both literally wore crowns, and in the novels there is a rival plot to Doran to crown Marcelle as new queen to overthrow Tommen, which comes to nothing. But it wasn't clear whether to have golden crowns just figuratively meant their hair color. That being said, Ellaria Sand never tried to kill Marcelle in the novels, nor did her counterpart succeed in doing it. Ellaria in the novels is one of the characters calling for peace, tired of the cycle of revenge. Due to limited screen time and drastic condensations of the Doran storyline, Ellaria's actions are replaced with those of other characters. The poison used on Marcelle would seem to be the long farewell, the same poison Tyene used earlier on in Bronn, but gave him the antidote which she keeps in her necklace. Ellaria has actually been wearing the same kind of necklace the whole season, and that she has had an antidote too. The poison-covered handkerchief that Ellaria throws away after the ship leaves is actually CGI, because the real one just kept dropping straight into the water instead of fluttering away attractively. The manner in which Marcelle dies raises a few questions for the future. Why did Ellaria poison Marcelle after sending her betrothed Tristan Martell along with her on a ship with Jaime and Bronn? Who could take the prince hostage or kill him after Marcelle's assassination? It remains to be seen if Jaime and Bronn will head back to Doran to demand retribution from Prince Doran, as the ship is fairly close to the harbor, or if they will keep going to King's Landing. In a subsequent interview with Entertainment Weekly, Van Mars revealed that when she finds out, Cersei is going to blame Tyrion most of all, because it was his idea to send Marcella to Doran in the first place, even though her father Tywin later confirmed the marriage alliance because he thought it was a good idea too. This does match a point from Cersei in the most recent novels, in which she starts becoming irrationally paranoid after the deaths of Joffrey and Tywin, both of which she blames on Tyrion. On the latter accurately, and becomes convinced that everything doesn't go her way must be applied to either Tyrion or the Tyrells, or even probably Tyrion working with the Tyrells. Tyrion does intend to kill Cersei after fleeing to the Free Cities, but he has no current means of undermining her rule. The Tyrells are actively trying to undermine Cersei and consolidate their own power. Vishals blames them for things that they logically could not have done. So it is in keeping with the novels that she will focus her blame for Tyrion, for this on Tyrion more so than on the Martells themselves. Nikolai Coster-Waldau was also spoken with in the same interview, and he implied that they thought Tristan would indeed end up as a hostage in King's Landing, though offering no explanation as to why Ilaria would endanger Doran's son this way. Marcelle has been shown to know that Jaime is really her father in the novels. On the other hand, she is described as being by far the smartest of Cersei's children. Just out of Tywin's 3 children, it was Tyrion who inherited the famous Lannister intellect, so too among Cersei's children, it was Marcelle who inherited the family intellect. Tyrion also complained to Cersei in the novels that it was obvious to anyone who spent a long time living in the Red Keep and was willing to consider the shocking possibility that none of Cersei's children were Robert's. Tyrion bluntly asked her if she thinks he is as blind as her father is. Tywin was smart enough to see the clues if he wanted to, but the possibility that his legacy was ruined in such a way was so shocking that he was in denial. Thus, it's entirely possible that Marcella simply put the pieces together over the years, particularly after Stan started publicly circulating the accusation that Robert wasn't her father, saying that none of Cersei's children even looked like him. According to actress Nile Tiger-Free in her interview at MYM Buzz in June 2017, Marcella's death was originally supposed to be more graphic. The exact details are unclear, but apparently the reaction to the poison was going to be so violent that she would cough up pieces of what Nell thought was her brain. Quote, originally what happened is they gave me those smashed up bananas with like blood, fake blood. And my brains were supposed to be all over the ship and stuff. End quote. Now believe that the producers ultimately cut this out and have her death relatively quick because they wanted Marcella's death to reflect her life and to be sweet, which is rare for Game of Thrones. Ionine's Beth Elderkin was incredulous at this, pointing out, quote, that does explain why Shireen Baratheon, a far superior character who had survived one of Westeros' worst diseases, was still given the same treatment. But, oh well, end quote, referring to Shireen's horrific death in the immediately preceding episode. Of the 6 characters with speaking roles who died in this episode, only one, Jon Snow, has actually occurred in the books, yet Stannis and Selyse and Shireen have not died in the novels, but this subplot was moved up and heavily condensed. Meryn Trent hasn't died, though Arya does kill a different Lannister lackey on her death list, Raff. Marcelle has not died yet in the novels, though this might be moved up from the next novel. Miranda doesn't appear in the novels at all, though she is loosely a gender-swapped condensation of the Bastards Boys, a group of Ramsay's lackeys from House Bolton, and some of them do get killed at Winterfell, just not by Theon. Sansa's death renders all branches of House Baratheon extinct de facto, though de jure, the Lannisters still claim that Tommen is Robert's son. Marcelle's death makes Tommen the last living member of House Baratheon of King's Landing. Sansa's death completely renders his cadet branch of the family extinct, House Baratheon of Dragonstone. Gendry, and the other bastards of Roberts that might have survived, are the only direct line descendants of the house, and no significant cadet branches or cousins of the house have been mentioned. The novels only confirm that Robert had 3 surviving bastard children after the purge following Robert's death. In the TV series, Gendry might be Robert's only surviving child. One of Stannis' officers say that half the men deserted in the night, while the sellswords, and they took all the horses. Previously, Stannis told the Iron Bank in Season 4 that he had about 4,000 men left, perhaps including the baggage train. As when he attacks Castle Black, a visual count shows that he had around 3,000 men. Previously in Season 5, Roose Bolton said that scouts reported Stannis' army, sold by foreign sellswords, numbered about 6,000 men. meaning that half of his army were sellswords. During the ensuing battle on the ice, visual analysts actually reveals that Stannis has around 1,300 men left. The Bolton army actually numbers a little over 2,000. It seems larger because they are mounted and Stannis' men are on foot, though cavalry are worth more than infantry. Stannis' men were also exhausted from the grueling march through the snow, while the Bolton forces were fresh. You can even see that many of the men in the rear of Stannis' army break and flee. The Stannis in the front holds firm. Going by these figures, it would seem that what Stannis' officer meant that many men deserted before dawn, nearly half, as well as all the sellswords with all the horses. It wasn't just the sellsword half of Stannis' army that fled, 3,000 men, but also half of his Baratheon army, around 1,500 men. Curiously, during the scene where Theon kills Miranda and he and Sansa escape Winterfell, Sansa's gloves appear in several shots only for them to disappear again seconds later, despite it being a fast-paced scene with no intervals whatsoever. The scene in which Jon Snow was repeatedly stabbed by his black brothers, with Ollie delivering the final blow, resembles the assassination of Julius Caesar, in which he was repeatedly stabbed by senators, including his former friend Brutus. In many fictionalized accounts, including HBO's own Rome, which Ciarán Hinds and Tobias Menzies portrayed Caesar and Brutus respectively, Brutus tearfully dealt the final blow, to Caesar's surprise, not unlike Ollie stabbing Jon. The blood leaking up from under Jon in the final shot isn't produced as CGI, but from practical effect, blood bag underneath the actor. CGI was used, however, to make Jon's eyes dilate at the exact moment he loses consciousness. The deaths of Jon Snow, Stannis Baratheon, and Marcel Baratheon filmed somewhat ambiguously, compared to actually seeing their corpses. Jon is badly injured and dying. Marcella falls poisoned, and Brienne swings her sword, but we don't actually see it connect with Stannis. The attack on Jon plays out much the same way in the novels. He is stabbed multiple times, falls to the ground, and at least loses consciousness, but then the chapter ends on a cliffhanger. The HBO Viewer's Guide lists all three as deceased. To avoid endless revert wars on the wiki, these three characters will be treated as dead unless proven otherwise by a subsequent episode. In Stannis' case, Nutter stated that he believed the reason Benioff and Weiss deliberately avoided showing it to prevent making said scene gratuitous or longer than it needed to be. Samuel Turley is heading to Old Town in the Reach to become a maester. In the novels, this occurred soon after Stannis arrived at Castle Black, in part because Jon feared Melisandre would want to burn Aemon due to his royal Targaryen blood. Aemon is the son of a king who actually sat on the Iron Throne. Therefore, it was widely believed that this storyline would be omitted from the TV series, but it was only delayed. Coupled with several other casting announcements, it appears that Season 6 will actually cover several subplots that were skipped from the most recent novel. However, most of Season 6 will still be based on a single book, which probably means it won't be as heavily condensed as Season 5 was. Good. Mother's Mercy won several Emmy Awards for 2015. Outstanding Director for a Drama Series, David Nutter. Outstanding Writing for a Drama Series, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. And Outstanding Makeup for a Single Camera Series, Non-Prosthetic. Director David Nutter won the award for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in a Dramatic Series for his work on Mother's Mercy at the 2016 Directors Guild of America Awards. Nice. So overall, I think that this episode is really damn good, and yeah, just the fact that this is how Season 5 ended. Yeah, let's just say that things are going to get interesting come Season 6, which we will look at next year, so yeah. Still, overall, I give Mother's Mercy 5 Iron Thrones out of 5. Anyway, tune in next year as we look at Season 6 of Game of Thrones, beginning with The Red Woman. And next month in December, it's going to be DCEU December, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. So, yeah. So overall, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching these videos, and for the last time this year, remember everyone, winter is coming.